Welcome to The Mental Fight, a safe place to ignite hope and peace, where we talk all about our feelings, even in the depths of life's curveballs. Regardless of the season you are in, you are worthy, safe, heard, and loved. Together and with God, we can overcome and embrace our next joyful steps. One day at a time. Let's get started. Hi, friend. Welcome back to The Mental Fight. Today, I want to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And that's where my journey began. If you've been following me, you may know. And for me, I've had a lot of different layers to my past and struggles, but the one constant in my life was scoliosis, which you may know if you've been following me or the podcast. And June is Scoliosis Awareness Month. So I thought this would be a great special episode to start the month and to honor everyone listening with scoliosis. And scoliosis is common, but we all have different degrees and curvatures and experiences. And with scoliosis comes pain, perhaps years or even decades of physical pain. And that affects and alters our brains. And as much as we go through physically, a lot of times it's even tougher mentally and emotionally than the physical pain. So maybe this episode is for you or someone you love, your spouse, or maybe you're a parent trying to navigate and understand your child's diagnosis. And I hope this helps or at least makes you feel seen. And some people have less curvatures and more pain than someone who might have it worse off. So no matter the curve or your life stage, you are a fighter. If you are a scoliosis fighter, I pray this helps you. I've had scoliosis nearly my entire life, and I was diagnosed at 7, which is fairly young. And since then, it's always been a part of me, and it's traveled with me through the good, the bad, the hard, and even the blessings in between. It has taught me a lot. It's taught me about life and myself and others and God. And when I was in the thick of my scoliosis, I knew I wanted to help others going through the same thing because it takes a huge toll mentally and physically, especially if it's severe like mine was. I remember when I had a back brace, I wanted to become a fashion designer so I could create clothes for people like me, just for back brace people like mine, because I couldn't wear anything else. I couldn't wear anything I wanted to wear for years. And during the most tender times of growing pains and just figuring yourself out and your friend circle, and I was deeply uncomfortable in my skin. And that's an understatement. I don't know anyone that was more uncomfortable than I was. We all have our own journeys, but I was so shy and uncomfortable. And I hated myself, honestly. I hated my life. I hated life, which is crazy that I had those thoughts at 12 and 13 years old. I was very anxious and depressed, and for reasons, but crazy now because when I look back on it, I'm like, I thought I hated my life, but I just hated my circumstances. And I couldn't even take a normal breath. I had to learn how to breathe differently for years. And just the little things like the aches and the pains and the rashes because of the brace itself. Like I couldn't even focus at school or in school at all, especially junior high. The only thing I remember was that I was in my head at all times, all day long. I felt hot, heavy, uncomfortable, and I would always ask myself and ruminating in my head, like, could others see my brace? Or how can I breathe? Am I itchy, sweaty? Like, are they staring at me? Are they making fun of me? Why are others so mean? And like, why was I born this way? What did I do to deserve this? All the questions you can imagine. But to rewind, I want to take you back to the earlier years. So I was diagnosed at 7, way too young, and I didn't know what was wrong with me at the time. I just knew I had a lot more doctor's appointments and they're talking about my back all of a sudden. And I had to do exercises at night. And every 6 months for over a decade, I saw my orthopedic surgeon, had hundreds, if not more, of x rays, just always measuring and praying and doing the exercises, and then needing a back brace from 6th grade into just before high school. And even all throughout high school, I still had to wear my back brace at night. And I remember when I had to get molded for my brace, I was 11 and it was an experience. I was patted down from my armpits to my collarbone and all the way down to my torso from every angle, like 3 or 4 different men touching me in a cold, dark room. And I just had a little tank top on. It was like a tan color that they gave me. And they were just yanking my limbs to get the cast molded like just right. And I was on a little table with a crank and they were just yanking on me. Like it was so uncomfortable for obvious reasons and painful ones. And it just seemed like it took forever. I was like, what am I doing here? And I had that same brace from 11 years old to 17. And I probably gained like 50 to 60 pounds within that time frame. Never having a different brace, mind you. Like that's wild because it even covered my chest area. Like, I don't know. But the last year of high school, I didn't even wear it at all because I knew I was going to have surgery. The plastic back brace started at my collarbone all the way to my tailbone with four-ish straps in the middle, sucking me in. And I had to strap them each one every single day. And it's like, no wonder I felt so uncomfortable and insecure, and I felt trapped and less than. And honestly, I remember sometimes my straps would like undo and make a little crack, and I'd be embarrassed. Like just every little thing that people may not know or realize. And it's an experience. And I wore vests and a lot of layers. And luckily those were in style back then. And the layers of clothing that took for me to look presentable. Like every morning, I looked at the backside in the mirror and I looked at myself from every angle, but especially like my upper back and my lower back where it ends. And therefore, I put on a lot of makeup, like extra makeup, just to feel okay about myself before I left the house because I hated the way I looked. I hated everything about it. So, like I mentioned, I had rashes and sores for my brace as well, a lot of the time. And I had pressure spots, especially on my right hand side, that were so painful and hot and red. And so you could just imagine like that on top of being in class all day long, like I could not focus. And on top of being insecure and shy, and on top of not being able to breathe fully, on top of being very young and just trying to get by every day, while also having trouble in school. And I already had a learning disability and on top of trauma. Like, even in my younger years, I felt like a punching bag in general. And again, never feeling enough. I was in my own little bubble and I just wanted to be left alone. I shielded myself from everyone. I just wanted to disappear. Kids are mean. We have hard experiences. And especially if you already feel alone and depressed and anxious and already having to deal with a lot at home, a lot at school. And sometimes the only safe space is in your head. I think that's why I clinged to writing at a young age. And I share that to say, like, if you are going through a scoliosis journey or had a similar experience, I am with you. I am so sorry for everything you've been through. But you know what? You are a warrior. We are scoliosis warriors and survivors. And you should be so proud of yourself. It's not an easy thing to go through that many people may not understand. I mean, scoliosis is pretty common, but like I said, not everyone has experienced severe scoliosis. So, flash to high school now. Like, I was so excited to finally wear real clothes again. I could wear anything I wanted within reason, of course, but I felt like it was my second chance. I had just turned 14. I was like one of the younger people in my class. I had just turned 14 when ninth grade started, and I felt so light walking. I wasn't held down, and I felt like I could walk better. I could walk easier. I felt confident, and it was a fresh start. And even if I had to wear my back brace at night still, which was still hard and uncomfortable, and I didn't sleep much throughout those years. And I mean, it only got worse when I gained weight and my breathing was shallow. And it was hard, but I still did my scoliosis exercises. And by that time, I also got a hang up, which is an inversion table. And I used that every morning and every night just to get by. Because by the end of the day, especially, I was in so much pain from my growing curve. And every single year, I just felt worse and worse. And I felt like my body was crushing me more and more. My body felt so heavy from the pressure and the weight from my spine progressing and crushing, like my lungs and my heart would have done that if it kept growing. But one morning I woke up and my entire arm felt out of socket and numb and tingling. And I was scared. And luckily, I was able to move part of my arm by like lunchtime. But even when I would walk in the hallway in general, it always felt odd. Like I was doing it wrong, or people were looking at me like my arms were not swaying naturally like most people. I had to think about it. Like I literally had to think about it to act normal. My entire neck and my torso hurt like so bad by like midday, especially by the end of the day, senior year. And it's all I could think about again. Like it's all I thought about in school. Like I'd look at people's backs staring and just in awe and in envy because their spines were actually straight and I wasn't used to looking at that. Like the natural look, like the natural spine look that curved but not in a bad way. And like shoulder to shoulder it looked the same level. And that's what I wanted more than anything. But more than that, I was fearful all throughout school. Like, what would my future be like? Would I need surgery? And that was my biggest fear and chip on my shoulders for years from, 7 to 17. Like surgery was on my mind for a long time, especially as a teen. And more than that, if I did need surgery, all of those years having a back brace would be for nothing, is what I thought. And I'd be a failure, like it was my fault. And looking back, I'd rather enjoy those younger years brace free if that still meant surgery later on. Because I missed out on a lot of experiences and I shielded myself and I didn't really have friends my seventh grade year. And it was just a really hard time. I wonder what I would have been like, but we can't always know. But I think it would have saved me a lot of emotional and physical pain. But then again, it also made me lean on God from a young age. And I knew everything was in His hands. And I knew from a young age I had to trust and depend on Him, and I couldn't control my life, and I couldn't control my scoliosis. So by senior year, I could tell my spine was changing from the way I looked, because again, I still looked at my back every single day before leaving the house, making adjustments, but also the way I felt. I had more tingling and tenderness, and my arms were starting to hurt in weird places, and like my nerves felt pinched. I had pain like throughout my neck, shoulders, arms, head pressure, headaches, and of course, like shooting pains in my chest and in my back. But I also just felt heavier and sore all over, like a bruise on my back. And when I felt my spine getting worse, I could almost feel it getting worse. Almost felt like a tickling or tingling sensation. Like I could just literally feel it getting worse ever since fifth grade in real time. And I was in constant pain. I had to lay down every single day after school until dinner. And then many times after dinner, I was always fatigued, tired. I was always hunched in my chair praying for relief, all in school. And it's a miracle I even passed and graduated, honestly. Like, I don't know how I did it. I was just in survival mode, like I don't know how I did it. But when you go through things, especially at a young age, like things you can't control, you have no option. You have no other option but to just keep going, keep going forward. And then came that day that I dreaded my entire life for nearly a decade. I went to my appointment and I was so nervous because I had a really bad feeling. And like I was always anxious, but this felt different. And my surgeon, he measured the x ray, measured my back, had this look on his face, and my heart sank. And he said, I think it's time for surgery. And I bursted into tears. Like my nightmare came true. Like I was a failure. This is my fault. Oh my gosh. And if only I did my exercises more, if only I wore my brace more, even though I wore it as recommended, and you know, if only it wasn't so heavy because I had gained some weight. If only, if only, if only. And I then I realized this was out of my control. And I'm just one of those people that kept on getting worse. I stayed in a different room at the office until they essentially closed, just crying and talking with the nurse and the doctor and my mom. And this was winter, I think winter of 2005. So my senior year and before Christmas, I think. And I was just and I knew I was going to have surgery within that year. And I also had a bleeding disorder, which made things complicated. So we had a plan. I had to give blood so many times beforehand within a certain time frame. And I think it was around 5 times before surgery. And I also had to be cleared because apparently I had asthma that we figured out later on. And because they had an opening for the summertime, but I ended up failing that breathing test to be cleared. So we stuck to the following December, December of 2006, after my first semester of college. The entire year, the rest of high school and the beginning of college, I spent researching. And the only social media I had at the time was MySpace, and that was not for anything but friends. So I found older blogs through websites or pictures and just anything I could to feel more at ease. But I also felt like this could be it. Like death could be near. And I had to prepare myself for that. And I had to prepare myself for possible paralyzation just in case. There's always risks, and especially with spine surgery. And 17 going on 18, like that was a lot to deal with. And not only like finishing high school and starting college, like what? And I would also have all these questions. I think I had 100 questions for the doctor, honestly, literally. And I would ask, like, what would I look like after? What would I feel like after? And everything that could be going wrong in this situation. And I knew, I knew and my doctor knew, like, this was my only option if I wanted to live a normal life. Or else he said I would probably be in a wheelchair by 30 or worse. And you can die from scoliosis, obviously. There's complications with organs involved, and that's scary too. And I was only 18 and I had my whole life ahead of me. Even though I was already dying inside, I felt like, I wasn't living life even then, my quality of life. And so I had a tiny job that I had that summer before surgery. And I remember I couldn't even stand up for more than 15 minutes at a time without my body feeling like it was 1,000 pounds and crushing me. Like my limbs felt heavy and painful. And it was a different kind of pain too than I realized and I recognized. It was different. Like I was like, wow, I'm 18. I'm about to be 18 and I can't even live my life. Can't even stand up for more than 10 minutes at a time. Like surgery cannot come soon enough. And I end up, getting fired from the job, honestly, like soon after, but it was all for the better. And in therapy, like now I have realized a lot, and I've realized I've always had to deal with physical and emotional struggles. And I've never lived like a normal life in a sense because I feel like that was robbed from me. And that's a kind of grief that shapes us forever. And that's the grief that's so real that so many of us go through as kids. Like we have to grow up so fast or deal with a lot. And no one should have to deal with that growing up. So the day of surgery, I remember it was December 15th, just before Christmas, and I was shaking the entire way there. And in the pre-op room, I was a mess. Like I was shaking and they were giving me medicine to calm down. And I remember asking, am I going to die? Am I going to be okay? Tell me I'm going to be okay. And I remember them wheeling me out, saying, it's time. And I looked at the clock one last time before I was knocked out and fell asleep. And then I woke up like 8 or 9 hours later. I think I was at in the pre-op room at like 7:30, and I woke up like between 5 and 6, and I felt so relieved that I was alive because it was like an 8 or 9 hour surgery. And I just remember when I woke up, they asked me to wiggle my toes. I remember like I probably looked ridiculous because I wanted them to know I wasn't paralyzed. And I just remember like I could hear myself think in my head, but my whole body felt like cement. Like I couldn't move anything. And I was in the ICU for many days in the hospital, but I finally got my own room like the last 2 or 3 days, and I was there for almost 7 days. I think about 7 days, and I got out just in time for Christmas. But from January to maybe like May or June that year, I don't remember much. I was on pain meds a lot at first, and everything just felt like a blur. And I remember I wasn't allowed to drive for 6 months, and I wasn't allowed to be in the car except for doctor's appointments for the first 3 months. But by summer, I felt normal again. Like, I felt free and light and happy. I was like, "What is this? Like, is this how I'm supposed to feel?" Because this was a brand new experience in my body and my mind, and I'm like, "Is this what other people feel all the time?" And I just had, like, a huge epiphany and an awakening, and I wanted to change other parts of myself, but I was just relieved because I didn't look as weird as I thought I would look. I didn't know what it would look like. I didn't know if I would look too straight, like a robot, or like, I don't know, but I could still bend and move parts of my back. And I am fused from T1 to T12. So, like, the whole middle part of my back is fused. And I don't have much feeling in the middle of my back either. But yeah, it's been a journey. And since then, I haven't had major issues that I know of, but it's always on my mind and something I'm mindful of. And I still have to lay down, at times, and I know my limits, but I can also function somewhat normally. And scoliosis used to be my entire world and my entire identity. I mean, scoliosis was my first and oldest wound. It was my biggest teacher. And I hate to use the word blessing, especially when it comes to illnesses and chronic conditions and scoliosis, but it kind of was. Like, it caused me so much turmoil in my life, and I know that I wouldn't be the person I am today without those experiences. So for that, I think it is a blessing. And maybe this was always in my nature, but I do believe it made me, like, more empathetic and kind and patient and understanding. And it made me unique, maybe, and maybe in all the wrong ways. But it also made me cling to something greater than myself, like, even from a young age. Like, in our weakest moments, God meets us where we are, whether that's in a health crisis, struggles, or like even when we're just suffocating under fear. Here's the good news: whatever you go through, like, God's possibilities are endless. I think about all the times I had to trust God in some unfortunate circumstances, and I just wanted to go away, run away, not be in my body, or my mind. And I think about all the times I've experienced a full spectrum of emotion in those difficult moments. Like, when life felt unfair, I just knew there was a greater purpose, and that's what I clung to. And it's also giving up the life we imagine or hope for, because we can't go back and change the past, but we can go forward. And the forward is scary because it's the unknown, but it's what we have to do. And God hears our cries, like even when he feels distant, and he can soothe us when we panic. And he doesn't ever promise us a perfect, pain free life, especially for the scoliosis warrior. But that does not mean we should give up or have all these negative thoughts all the time, because with him, we can get through. He's with us and he can protect us. He can protect us in our times of need. And that's something we can rely on and trust. I feel like God saved me in many ways, in many different experiences. And some are crazy that I haven't talked about, but I do know there's hope. There's hope every single day. And more than anything, I think scoliosis helped me embrace the life God gave me. Even when I hate parts of my story or want to forget things, or, you know, even when I want to give up, even when I wish I could go back in time and do it all over, like we may not be able to go back. We can't wish for a different life or an upbringing or a different family or different friends or different anything, different body. But I believe we can trust God in our vulnerable moments. And in those moments is an invitation to draw closer to Him. We all go through struggles. Many of us go through health struggles. But if you know the deep pain of scoliosis and what it does to us mentally on a daily basis for years and years and years, I want to celebrate you. I want to honor you. You are so brave and so strong and capable, and you're loved and you're worthy by God. And you may have limits. You may still have limits even after surgery or all these years, but you still deserve to feel free. You deserve to feel free in your mind and in your body, and as free as you possibly can, even here on earth. And there's still time to feel joy and feel relief again, or maybe even relief for the first time. Like when I had surgery, I felt relief for the first time in a long time. So give yourself credit and grace. And I know some people have to have multiple surgeries. Some people may never need surgery. I mean, people may have it way worse than I did. I know at my worst, when they first decided to have the surgery, I think my curve was nearly 60 degrees. It was like in the late 50s. And I think it might have probably even got worse than that in the past year until my surgery. I feel like that whole year, it could have been more than 60 degrees. I am not sure. But regardless, I don't regret my surgery at all. I do advocate for it if you need it, especially for me. I do believe it was the best decision for me, especially at 18 years old when I was, just done growing and I was still young. And we are all different. We're all different, but we're all worthy of a new beginning. So for the scoliosis warrior, or maybe you have kids, or maybe you're like, does my kid have scoliosis? I was, I think, first diagnosed at school or a doctor's appointment, but there's many signs. Some signs to watch for are uneven shoulders or shoulder blades. You can see a visible curve in the spine. Your ribs look different. I know mine protruded, and I do know that one of my legs is longer than the other, and I do know there's a lot of awareness now, and no matter what you went through, physically, mentally, you should be so proud of yourself. It's Scoliosis Awareness Month, and you should celebrate. Celebrate your journey and what God got you through. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I pray it blesses you. If you know a scoliosis warrior, send this episode along, especially if they are about to undergo a life change or surgery, or if they feel alone in their journey. If you loved this episode, head over and give a rating or review. And until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful